Siomra beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture.
Sure look, sure listen. Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen. Oh, very good, Benjamin. It's week 3 or 4 of spooky season, and I tell you what, you've spooked the pants. It's week 3 of spooky season. Thank you, Ben, spooky disembodied finger. And I tell you what, you've spooked the absolute pants off of me this week by making me watch terrifying things until I needed to poop in fear, Ben, not in some sort of sexy way. But sure, look, there's no need to spend any more time talking about my toilet activities because we've got loads to look at this week, including the monarchy. What's monsters got to do with it? Also, The Curse. Is Emma Stone even in a supernatural horror? And I've seen the first 3 episodes of The Fall of the House of Usher and Loki episode 2. Not only that, since it's spooky season, we've both had the dreadfully unpleasant experience of watching The Hallows.
Sure, listen, Michael, if that wasn't enough, and it really was, Michael, I had enough this week after watching The Hallows. I don't know why I came up with this conceit. I don't want to do it anymore.
Terrible stuff.
I don't want to do it anymore. But The Hallows was watched, and then we're also going to be taking a look at the enduring legacy of Frankenstein. Why is it stuck around, Michael? What's the deal with Frankenstein anyway? And why do people keep telling me he's not the monster? He is the monster. There just happens to be another monster.
Oh, I see what you've done there. It's Aaron Eckhart from the film I, Frankenstein. Benjamin.
Yes.
Benjamin, speaking of Aaron Eckhart and big spooky monsters, there's been a new trailer for... Ben.
Yeah.
I thought SAG was back on track, but it's not back on track. It's back off track.
It's not. We should probably talk a little bit about that, Michael.
Yeah. We forgot to mention that. It's back off track.
Yeah, Michael. So the producers, i.e. the executives, i.e. the big studio moguls, Michael, have walked away from the negotiating table.
Fabulous stuff.
Yeah. So again, it's important to note that the WGA has has succeeded in their strike terms. However, the SAG-AFTRA, which is now the Actors Guild, is still fighting against the Hollywood will to digitize and hold the rights to use your face in perpetuity. They still want that, and apparently they have walked from the table because SAG-AFTRA will not budge on this. They refuse to give people the rights to scan your face and use them forever, which, to be honest, Michael, outside of even an AI debate, that's probably an ethical concern more than anything. Fuck that.
If the producers want some faces, Ben, they could get in contact with me because I actually own in perpetuity the rights to Ben's face. Now, he doesn't know that because he didn't read the contract, but I do, and I'm willing to sell it for a small fee. So if anyone from big Hollywood wants to get in touch with me, except Harvey Weinstein, then I will gladly sell Ben's face. I don't think Hart Weinstein would do anything with it. Even Weinstein can have it.
Joke's on you, Michael. No one would want my face in their movie.
Oh, very good. Anyway, Ben, speaking of hideous monsters, Russell Crowe, not Russell Crowe, what's his name?
Kurt Russell.
It's an
easy mistake to make, Michael. They're very similar.
Yeah, they are. They're very similar. They're all throwing phones at people. So Kurt Russell is back, Ben, and this time he seems to be the government behind monsters.
He's the government behind a lot of things. He played this character in Fast and Furious.
He did. Mr. Nobody? Is that his name?
Yeah, he played a 1960s version of Nick Fury in Fast and Furious. So I think he was probably Nick Furious in that. But yes, I suppose. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of terrible jokes today, ladies and gentlemen. It's about 9:20 on a Sunday morning.
Why is it so early, Ben? What's going on?
We haven't recorded a podcast in the morning time in a long time.
Absolutely hideous. I've still got crusty eyes.
Yes, I'm still blinking like I have sandpaper attached to the inside of my balls. It's terrible.
Horrible stuff. Horrible stuff.
Come here to me, Michael. Kurt Russell, not so horrible stuff. But yes, he knows all about Monarch's real secrets. And it appears, Michael, we have a classic corporate schism narrative taking place. So there are two monarchs. The monarch that claims to be legitimate and important and shady. And then we have a second monarch which knows the real truth of everything.
Oh, I didn't really pick that up, Benjamin. I was too busy being excited about the fact that it's actually a drama about one girl finding out what happened to her dad. Because that's what I've always wanted from my monster movies.
Michael, I don't know what executive meeting took place where they just said, we're going to have to make every movie a heartfelt human experience. So basically, anytime we write a big CGI blockbuster, we're going to have to find the true line. To which many a monster fan went, I don't know if we do. I don't know if...
Ugh. That's what ruined Transformers. Ugh.
Yeah, what if we just had big cool monsters being big cool monsters?
Yeah. And the people were like, oh, how do we stop these monsters? Not, oh, what was my dad involved with? I don't care what her dad was involved with, Ben.
Who gives a fatootin' flutin' hootin'? Who cares?
That's the most Irish thing you've ever said, Ben. Anyway, Godzilla's back, though, and he's going to do a team-up. It's kind of like the Godzilla cartoon.
Michael, there's more monsters than you can shake a stick at in this.
There's flying ones, big flappy ones.
There's tentacly boys, by the looks of it. There was a weird...
From under the ground.
From under the ground. That was very good. Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting, as Mick well knows, is an audio medium, but he's doing a very strong visual there, and it's a shame. But as they say in podcasting, everybody's first podcast is somebody's last podcast. Yeah. You know yourself.
Fuck you. Anyway, Ben, Kurt Russell's going to come along and he's going to sort it all out for us.
He is, yeah. We didn't get much in terms of story other than, I miss my dad, and
where's my dad? What was he involved in?
I miss the monarch I built. So those are the two that we're dealing with.
Benjamin, I don't want to spook you too much, but on my screen there, Ben's in a new location, ladies and gentlemen, and on my screen there, Benjamin, just behind you and to the right, there's very much the shadowed outline of Count Dracula with his high collar. Is there a Dracula there, Ben?
Michael,
I think there might be a Dracula behind you.
It's a cactus.
It's not a cactus, Ben.
It's a little
Show me.
Cactus casting its shadow.
Count Cactula. Oh yeah, it is a cactus, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, everybody. There's not a vampire behind Ben.
There will be more episodes of the podcast, much to everybody's chagrin.
Very good. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Monarch. I don't know. Is there much more to say about it? I don't know.
Michael, I don't think so, but come here to me. You and I are two terrible people.
Oh, some of the worst.
Some of the worst, Michael. And do you know what we've never had?
Heroin.
Well, that's true. I can't actually knock that. We've both had no heroin. But we've never had our comeuppance, Michael.
Oh, I've definitely had some comeuppance, Ben. But go on anyway. Oh, yeah, definitely. But go on.
Michael, do you know two other people that have never had any comeuppance, apparently?
Emma Stone and the actor who plays her husband.
Nathan Fielder, yes.
Is that who it is?
Yeah. Michael, we got a trailer for The Curse this week. But I have to say, Michael, I don't think there is a curse in this.
I don't think there is either, Ben. I don't think this is actually in our wheelhouse. I think this is a relationship drama.
I hope it is both in our wheelhouse and a relationship drama. That would be fun. This is an interesting one. We got a trailer for The Curse from Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie. Benny Safdie is one half of the Safdie brothers, Michael. He plays the cameraman in this by the looks of things. But Benny Safdie has written this with Nathan Fielder. And Benny Safdie is kind of an indie darling. He wrote Good Times with Robert Pattinson, which is widely regarded as the film that kind of transitioned Robert Pattinson out of Bella, I want to give you a bite, to I'm an actor, look at me.
Yes, I'm Batman.
Yes, I'm Batman. And then he also wrote Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler.
Oh, with Adam Sandler, where he was doing diamonds.
Yeah, the Safdie brothers are the two brothers that write and direct those features, and Benny Safdie is one of them. He's done this with Nathan Fielder. Are you familiar with the work of Nathan Fielder, Michael?
No, Benjamin, I'm not. That's why I called him some man who's married to Emma Stone.
That's fair. Nathan Fielder is kind of an internet cult sensation. He is a man who's done many a TV show as an awkward documentarian Louis Theroux style individual.
Oh, very good. Okay.
but he's even more awkward. He plays a very reserved, socially non-functional, deadpan individual who kind of interviews very extreme individuals around America quite often.
Is it real Benjamin or is it Louis Theroux? Is it Louis Theroux or is it fake? So
for many years, people thought that Nathan Fielder was the man he portrayed to be on television, but this has made it very clear that he's not. One of the most jarring things about this, Michael, is we're seeing a full range of emotion and acting from Nathan Fielder. It's very disturbing if you're familiar with his work beforehand.
Well, that's good because I'm not.
Hang on a second, Nathan. You're not supposed to smile at all. You're supposed to be genuinely uncomfortable in most situations. What is this? But yeah, so he kind of... I think we can now say that he created a very hyperbolic version of himself that was this awkward kind of deadpan individual. And now I would imagine a lot of those situations are being re-examined as a bit of a heightened truth, if you want to look at it that way.
You can't call him a hyperbolics.
No, I can. I have a podcast. I have a microphone, Michael. I can say whatever I want.
Say whatever you want. Say that thing you were saying about the Holocaust earlier.
It was terrible.
A very good recovery. Benjamin, anyway, he gets cursed by a young girl for being a big prick.
For being an absolute prick. So these are I suppose the villains of this, Michael, are white people. By the looks of it. And yeah, they're home flippers, Michael. They're gentrifiers. They come in and they flip homes and they make money and they make a TV show about it. And their kind of USP, their unique selling point, Michael, is that they're good people and they actually invest in the community before they flip their home.
And Emma Stone, Ben, she makes buildings that are a reflection of the community, but that just means she puts mirrors on it.
Yeah, she just shoves mirrors up and things so nobody can look into her house, and then people get blinded as they drive down the street. Yeah, absolutely fabulous. So there's a good bit of satire going on here, Michael. I think it's a very cold, hard look at what's my favourite thing, Michael?
Oh, is it dyed-in-the-wool capitalism?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, late-stage capitalism, Michael. That's what it is.
I couldn't remember the first words. I knew
it's a critique of the individualistic late-stage capitalist mentality of, I'm going to buy homes, I'm going to flip them, and I'm going to make a profit. Fuck the community. Who needs to invest in that? It is a little bit of a takedown of that. But, Michael, here's the thing. The curse comes about because Nathan Fielder, for the camera, gives a young girl lots of money.
$100 bill.
$100 bill. Lots of money. Not really in America, Michael. It might get you a grocery for an afternoon.
But won't even get you one dose of insulin.
It wouldn't.
Take that, really America.
Bad. It's really bad. America's a shithole, Michael. Jesus.
Absolutely the worst.
Come here. But he ends up taking it back because he didn't have something smaller. And she curses him. She just says, I curse you. And she's a very, very commanding little presence on the screen. She's like, I curse you. And then they take that to be an actual curse. But Michael,
go on.
I fucking doubt it. I think their own consciences and their own bloody lifestyle is catching up to them, that's all.
Oh, I hope it is a curse. I hope it's a curse like in that film where they try and put the demon in the goat. What was that film called?
Where they try and put a demon in a goat?
Yeah, it had that Australian woman in it. Sam Raimi film, wasn't it? Was it Sam Raimi?
Oh, the fucking...
had that Australian woman in it.
Drag her to hell.
Drag me to hell.
Drag me to hell. Yeah. Drag us to hell.
Drag us all to hell, for God's sake, it's 9:30 in the morning. Ben, I hope it's like that. I hope it turns out like that.
Fingers crossed, Michael.
I hope it ends with them both being dragged onto train tracks.
With Emma Stone inside a goat and Nathan Fielder being dragged across some train tracks.
Yeah, fabulous stuff altogether, Ben. Speaking of, though,
the goat.
Horrible curses upon a family and gross and gribbly murders. I have seen the first 3 episodes of your favourite and my favourite, Ben Mike Flanagan's new series on Netflix, The Fall of the House of Usher. Now, you might say, were you disappointed to find out that it wasn't about the collapse of the popularity of 2000s era hip-hop? And yes, Ben, I was, because I thought it was about Usher. Usher from A-Town. But it's not about him at all, Ben. Because his house apparently is still in good order. This is the story by Mike Flanagan, where Mike Flanagan has got all of his mates,
All of them.
every single person he's ever met, and he's put them all in a show together and had them all be horrible.
Oh no, are they all terrible people?
Yeah, they're all terrible people, Ben. They're a crime family of weird sex people.
Oh, but I think you could probably, at a certain point, Michael, guess that most crime families are full of weird sex people.
Are they? Do you reckon the Kinahans are?
Ah, I'd say there's a few lads with a few leather tassels and leather Lacoste
very
hats
good.
they put on for certain things.
Very good. Okay. Very interesting. Anyway, Ben,
We're
in the
really,
fall of the
that's
House of-
2 episodes in a row we've had to go with the Kinahans. We're really treading on some fine ice here.
well, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to listen, Ben, because I think they've got bigger things to be doing than listening to
I don't know.
Listen on a Monday
BDSM
afternoon.
apparently.
BDSM, for example. Allegedly.
It's good that we
think
make
should
ourselves
say.
laugh, isn't it, Michael? It's good. It's good.
That's the most important thing. Benjamin. Anyway, we're just like Mike Flanagan. We just do the same stuff over and over again. But I have seen 3 episodes of it. I tell you what, though. Can I tell you a little secret?
Go on.
It's quite good.
We knew it would be though, Michael. Come on, it's Mikey F.
Well, there's the thing, though. I didn't really like Midnight Spooky Club or whatever it was called.
Did you not? Midnight Mass?
No, I didn't love it. It was a bit too YA for me.
Oh, sorry. You mean the one he did after Midnight Mass, which was
Yeah. Midnight Spooky
looked at all
Club.
these kids in a strange home. Oh no, monsters!
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
monsters in the house or whatever.
I can't remember what that was called, Michael. I don't think that was a
Yeah,
hit
see?
at all, actually.
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
think you're probably right there.
Yeah, I didn't love it either. But this is great. This is fantastic. It's got
Good.
everyone you could ever want from Mike Flanagan, Ben. It's got Mike Flanagan's wife in it, obviously.
Yeah,
It's
obviously.
got Mike Flanagan's mate, Elliot from E.T.
Oh, very good.
got-
Yeah.
It's got Mike Flanagan's other mate, the voice of the Space Marine from the video game Bolt Gun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everyone.
I don't know any of these
everyone-
people, Michael. I can't help you. You've sprung
Yeah,
none of the names lined up.
Oh, okay. His wife is Kate Siegel. She's been in most of them.
Cool. Yeah.
The voice of the Space Marine from Bolt Gun is Raoul Coley.
Yes.
He's in it. Elliot from E.T. I can't remember the actor's real name. Henry something?
Very good. That's enough.
Anyway, Mark Hamill is in it, Ben.
Marky H.
Very good. And anyway, it's the story. It's one of those. It's one of your favourites, Ben.
Go on.
It's a framing device story.
Oh, I love a framing device story.
I know you do, Ben. You love it. You love when the story is someone telling the story.
Yeah, that's great, Michael, because it could be an unreliable narrator. How do we know any of this is true?
Very good. So the father of the House of Usher, Ben, Roderick Usher, or Rod as I call him.
Nobody else does. He's called Roderick for most of that
just-
series.
Yeah,
but you
I
call him
call him.
Rod.
All 6 of his incredibly multi-ethnic and weird sex people children have been killed.
Now, Michael, come here to me. Are they his children?
Yes, they're his physical children. Yes,
So
They
he's
address it with
just been
fucking around. Yeah,
He's just been
basically.
lashing it about, right?
yeah. Basically, his thing is, Ben, he was denied by his father. So if he has a child with any woman, then that child becomes an usher.
Oh, I see. It's just like Grant. In you come.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, very good.
Now the others aren't always happy.
No, I wouldn't say they are.
No, exactly. So there's a bit of a divide between the legitimate children and the bastards. For
Oh,
example.
very good. This is literally a pack of bastards.
Yeah. Literally a pack of bastards. Ben, but I'm not exaggerating when I say they're all weird sex people. They are all weird sex people.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all up to weird sex shit. Like it's definitely part of the theme of this that all of the kids are weird sex people, because a lot of them are getting comeuppance revolving around them being weird sex people.
Michael, we could make a very good cum joke there, but we won't because we're classy.
Everybody gets come up them, Ben. But only a few people get comeuppance.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Very good.
We
Thank you
almost
very
took
much
the
for
high road there, Michael. Go on anyway. Tell me a little bit more. This sounds
So-
fascinating.
It is fascinating, Ben. It appears to be, after 3 episodes, and we're going to go into mild spoilers now, so just go watch it, because it's great so far. So
I can't, Michael. We're in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, no, pause the podcast. And
Okay.
I'm not talking to you, Ben. I'm talking to the listeners.
Oh.
I'm going to send that little vampire behind you. Get him, little Dracula. Get him, Count Cactula. Anyway, Ben, do an AI after this of Count Dracula as a cactus.
I will.
Or else I'll send Carla Gugino to put a curse on your family. So anyway, Ben,
Nice.
Carla Gugino's there and she seems to be a curse on their family.
So she's just a curse.
I don't know, Ben. If I was to take a guess, it appears that Roderick, or Rod as I call him, and his sister Madeline...
Oh, yeah. Rod and Mad.
Who is Rod and Mad, who is played by a combination of the president of the world from Battlestar Galactica and the lady cop from Jack Reacher, because it's flashbacks.
Oh, okay. It's flashbacks, I see.
It appears they've made some sort of Faustian bargain, Ben.
Ah, yeah, as you do. Yeah.
And now the devil wants its due, for want of a better term.
An old devil's handshake, so to be.
Exactly, Benjamin. An old devil's bargain, as they say. And now she's back and she's like, I'm going to kill all your kids for you.
Because you made a Faustian bargain, bud.
Yeah, I told you I'd be back in 50 years or whatever and I'd kill all your kids. And I might not have mentioned that I was going to kill them in weird sex ways because they're all weird sex people. But I am.
But that's how it's got to be. Comeuppance.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
call
how
it
it's
that
gotta
for
be.
nothing.
And it's very good, Ben. I have thoroughly enjoyed it so far. The performances are very good. It's a little bit... It's definitely... I don't know. I have nothing against this whole nepotism in cinema thing where people like working with people and keep bringing back the same people. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit distracting going, oh, look, it's the mad priest woman from Black Mass. Oh, look, it's the guy who delivered the post in episode 4 of the House of Usher Hill or whatever. It's getting a little bit distracting that it's always exactly the same people. It's nice for Raoul Cooley to be playing a bastard.
Yeah, he's probably having a great time playing a bastard.
Kate Siegel, his wife, is playing a bastard.
It's very good. What about, Michael, what about Ruth Cobb? Irish woman Ruth Cobb.
She plays Irish woman Ruth Cobb.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Is she a bastard?
Yeah. Okay, well, like I said, we're into little spoilers a little bit. She is his new wife.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, we haven't really got into her yet, but she's a former junkie who he has married despite this enormous age difference. And also, she seems to be looking like Carla Gugino on purpose.
Oh.
Yeah, so, yeah, weird. There's some weird stuff going on. But like I said, Ben, I haven't seen it all yet.
All right, you're going to have to go and watch the rest of it after this, Michael.
Very good. I fully intend to, Ben. I'll have seen it all by this time next week because it's very good and very exciting.
Very good. Speaking of the new things that I haven't seen, Michael, you've watched Loki Season 2, Episode 2.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. That's
pretty good so
such
far.
a shocking revelation for a Marvel TV show, Michael.
It is. This is very strange. There's some very strange goings on. Benjamin, I said last week that I wasn't a huge fan of Sylvie. I never particularly clicked with the character, but this is not necessarily her episode, but it's she's more involved in it now, and she was quite good.
You enjoyed it, did you?
I did enjoy it, Ben. So, basic plot summary without getting into spoilers too much.
Go on.
Is the TVA has fractured, Ben.
Oh, not the TVA. A schism, Michael.
A schism, Ben. It's a bloody another schism or schism, depending on how you pronounce that word.
I see.
So there's another schism, Ben, and the TVA is divided into people who want to kind of preserve the timelines and save all of the people's lives living on them.
Right.
And then the hardline traditionalists, led by the Scottish woman, who are like, I will break down all the timelines. That's my Scottish accent, Ben.
Very South Park circa 1999. Good.
It was a little bit. Anyway, so they're off blowing up all the timelines, Ben, and the people who were like, oh no, there's people living in those timelines, don't do that. are trying to stop them.
Right,
And you know
that's-
what's good about this, Ben?
Yes.
For one thing, they kind of keep forgetting how powerful Loki is.
Right.
Now, they did a thing, if you remember, where in the TVA, powers don't work.
It don't work. They're no good.
They're no good, which is a good way of neutering Loki.
For a bit.
For a little bit. But then they send him out into the real world and he gets into like a fist fight with people.
Right.
And I'm watching this and he gets into a foot chase with a man. And I'm watching this going, this guy handily beat up Captain America.
Without breaking
On his own.
sweat, Michael.
Yes. This guy might not win, but he's a physical match for Thor.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's
a god.
Loki is seriously powerful. And then they have him not being able to catch a normal man in a foot chase. Or, pushing and shoving.
Yeah.
Pushing and shoving with normal people in a fight. And I'm watching, didn't this guy, throw Captain America clean across a room?
A few times.
This guy, thousands of years old and hilariously strong.
And has
But
a lot
then-
of experience.
Yeah, they redeem it a little bit because out in the real world, he gets to do a bit of Loki magic in this episode.
Ah, classic.
He does classic Loki stuff, and it's a little bit bad guyish.
Oh, I like it. Oh, he's shaking off the dust a little bit, huh?
A little bit. You got to see a little bit of the old villain Loki, which is very exciting and very good. For example, Ben, and here we go now into spoilers for
Go
Loki
on,
season
give
2,
me more.
episode 2. He chases this man who he's trying to track down around the corner, and there is, in classic TV conceit fashion, this guy is dressed up for a movie premiere, and he runs around a corner in 1970s London, and around the corner there is an unlikely gathering of mods and punks who take a dislike to this fella and it's fancy boys here, we better beat him up.
I have that
And you know what?
experience every time I'm in London.
Every time you're in London, you run into a bunch of punks who want to beat you up for being too much of a fancy lad.
It's fucking terrible.
I'm watching it going, this is ridiculous. Why are there so many people here? And why have they all just turned on this guy? But guess what, Ben?
What?
They were all just Loki. It was all just Loki doing constructs.
It's like when he was a snake.
Yeah. And he bit him. I went, Yeah. So anyway, it's pretty good. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Very
For the first 2 episodes.
Michael, that's
What?
highly shocking that Loki has returned to form, because this week we got a little bit of light shed on what's been happening at Marvel TV.
Oh yeah, they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, because you and I have scratched our heads for a bit and gone, what the fuck are the lads up to? What are they doing?
What are they up to? What's going on? Why is everything so rubbish?
What seems a bit of a shame, Michael, is they're re-releasing what was the black and white film Werewolf by Night? They brought out last year.
By Night.
They're re-releasing it in colour.
Yeah, that misses the point.
How shit is that? The only thing that I think was raved about critically last year was Werewolf by Night, where they're like, finally, something a bit different, with a slightly different tone, an interesting gambit, the black and white works so well, and they've just gone, but people probably want it in colour. No, you fuckwits.
Yeah, people didn't like it because they had to imagine what the colours were.
That is, yeah, what are you like that? No one was watching it going, this would be better in colour.
How am I supposed to know what colour that woman's jacket is?
They've just missed the point by a country mile and gone, this'll be fine for another Halloween thing, wouldn't it? Instead of writing another interesting mini Halloween special, which people clearly fucking loved, because who doesn't love a Halloween special, Michael?
Well, we do, because we're doing a whole month of the damn things.
We did, yeah. We're trying to make it big time. But, Michael, we also, The Hollywood Reporter broke this week how Marvel's been running its TV shows. Would you like to hear some of this?
Poorly.
Yeah, poorly. So, Marvel doesn't commission pilots. Marvel
that makes
doesn't do
sense.
pilots. So they don't test any of the material that they're going to run before they put it out. And Michael, despite the complexity of the TV system, pilots are quite important in deciding what people might find interesting, what works and what doesn't. So
yeah, but no, hold on a second though. I understand why they're doing that, because the idea behind it was to treat these shows like movies, basically.
Yeah, that's what they were attempting to do.
And you don't make a pilot for a movie.
Exactly. So the secondary thing they did was, because we're treating these like mini movies, lads, we're not going to hire showrunners. So there are no showrunners being brought in to do these things. What's happening is film executives are being hired in to do it instead. And I don't know if this debate's been going on long enough, Michael, but certainly since the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, we've come to realise that the executives of these companies don't really know what they're doing. They're not.
Kevin Feige did, but now he's overwhelmed.
But he made movies, Michael. He didn't make television. You can't just say, yeah, we're good at movies, so we'll just do television. The actors can do that.
But that's what they promised us, Ben. That's what we wanted. We basically wanted like 3-hour movies broken into 6 half-hour bits.
Yeah. But then we don't want that anymore, though, Michael.
No, because they've all been rubbish.
It's all been rubbish. But, Michael, the biggest kind of slam dunk that the Hollywood Reporter hit us with was confirmation that they relied on post-production and reshoots. They rushed through production things so they would have content for marketing as soon as possible. So they would kind of blitz this 6-episode format or 8-episode format, whatever they were doing. And that would generate content for the mill, as it were.
Oh, for the grist.
For the grist. And then anytime something went wrong, directors and actors weren't given time to do it while filming. They were told, we'll fix it in post, literally, and we'll reshoot if we need to. And that is what has led to the disaster of the Marvel TV shows. So they have also confirmed, Michael, that they will be moving to a more traditional multi-seasonal approach moving forward.
Oh, very good. Well, that's not exciting at all, because that's not going to happen. Benjamin, your cactus looks even more Dracula-y now. He's lost his cape, but he's gained an ear.
Yes, but as the sun is kind of coming across, Michael, it's coming in. You'll notice, Michael, that the window that's casting that light has an X in it, not unlike the Christian cross. That's the only reason I haven't been royally fed upon by Count Cactula. Yeah. That's it.
And the sun, of course.
And the sun. He's just having a little peek, gets a little bit of sunburn, and he goes,
I'm Count Cactula. Very spiky.
And obviously, Michael, he doesn't need fangs to feed on me. He just throws himself at me as a cactus, and then my blood goes up all the little spines. So it's like,
yeah, it's very good. That's actually that's how cactuses feed in the wild.
Speaking of spiky things that unnerved me this week, Michael.
Yes, go on.
We've continued our absolutely seminal series, Things That Go Bump in the Night.
In the Iha, yeah.
In the Iha, yeah. Things that go bump in the Iha. Ruddy and Mock and Shins and Iha.
Yeah, fair.
So, yeah, they're out there, you know. And this week, Michael, we've watched The Hallow.
Oh, horrible.
I fucking wish we hadn't, Michael.
Horrible experience altogether, Benjamin. We've been watching all these light horror comedies for the last couple of weeks. And now all of a sudden you've dropped this on me, this absolutely harrowing experience.
This weird Fenian mushroom nightmare. It's fucking bizarre.
Absolutely horrendous, Ben. There's only 4 humans in it.
Yeah, it's fucking... What an achievement, Michael, of a film set in Ireland. I never would have thought it possible. But fuck me,
horrible.
This thing is horrible. It's a horror film of the truest sort, Michael.
It shares some of the tone and the imagery of the film we watched a few weeks ago, The Hole in the Ground.
It does, yeah.
It shares the tone, the imagery, some of the same themes, the same baddies, basically.
Essentially, yeah, essentially.
But everything is just horrible.
Oh, it's so bad, man.
Everything is bad and horrible. What a terrible universe to live in.
This is dark. This is a dark film. It is incredibly Irish in some ways and then incredibly English in others, because one of the problems that a lot of Irish films have is that you can't get the backing necessary all the time to make a big horror epic from Irish production studios. Yeah, the money's not available in Ireland. We don't really have that kind of funding available. So quite often you'll have to go over to the BFI, the British Film Institute, and you'll have to say, I want to make an Irish thing. And they'll go, grand, but there have to be English people in it. And you go, well, that's a bit awkward because, sometimes English people don't get the best reception over here. And somebody at the BFI went, is that the plot? Excellent, do that.
Oh, very good. We'll send over Benjamin Stark. Would you have Benjamin Stark?
Yes, so Benjamin Stark makes his way over to Ireland with his lovely wife and his little baby Finn.
Little Irish baby.
Little Irish baby. But he's London born, Michael. He's London born, and that's very important. But come here to me. They are making their way over. Adam is the name of the character in the film, and Adam is a fungal expert and a wildlife expert, and he's been sent to do a survey of a local forest in Galway.
Oh, is it Galway?
It's filmed in Galway, so I would assume it's Galway, but I don't. I
assumed it was somewhere in and around Bray, because Bray famously is horrible.
Michael is actually working on his first ever horror debut, and it's just called Bray. It's just very called worrying. Bray. Yeah, some very strong opinions about Bray. But come here to me. Adam comes over and they begin to mess about in the forest, Michael. And it doesn't go very well for him and his family. There is so much folklore, so much Irish mythology kind of fused together in this and lobbed at the story. And it kind of works in places, but in a very horrific way.
Oh, it's horrible. There's horrible stuff going on. This is one of the most uncomfortable things I've watched in ages. It's just relentlessly grim and dark and horrible.
It's so relentlessly grim and dark and horrible, Michael. I watched this years ago. This came out in 2015, Michael. Around the same time as The Witch by Robert Eggers. I don't know if you remember that. But this came out in 2015, Michael. And it was kind of riding the crest of a folk horror revival. Where people were like, folklore can actually be pretty creepy. In much the same way now as every single movie trailer has a classic 80s pop song that used to be quite happy and bouncy, but now slowed and dropped down a key so that it's elongated and strange.
Sweet dreams are made of these.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Spot on. That was, Michael, I could not have asked for a better explanation of the concept that I just gave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. I just gave you a little example there.
Every once in a while, Michael, you do something and you remind me why I enjoy doing this podcast. That was one of them. Thank you very much.
Fuck you, Ben.
Thank you very much. That was
Should
very
be
good.
every day. Anyway, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben. Folklore is back. But it's not just folklore in this, because they went, maybe it's not folklore, maybe it's mushrooms.
Yeah, so Corin Hardy, not Robert Corin. I was confusing him with Robert Eggers there. I was having a little mind moment. Corin Hardy is the director and writer of this. And he wanted to really emphasise not only the folklore
fear
element,
of Ireland.
The fear of Ireland, because we are terrifying. He wanted to move away from the supernatural and maybe have a little bit more basis in science. First of all, Corin, let me give you a little heads up, buddy. You don't have to do that. It's fine. You can just leave it as folklore. It works just as well. But we did anyway. He played the video game The Last of Us and went, what if I did that, but in a forest in Bray?
In Bray or thereabouts. Is this is after The Last of Us, is it? Okay, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's
just
game.
Classic. It's the classic cordyceps. It's back, Ben.
Cordyceps is everywhere, Michael. You can't get away from it. It's terrifying.
Definitely, there's something about the cordyceps fungus, Ben, that really infected people's minds about 10 years ago. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It really infected people's minds about 10, 15 years ago, and a slew of horror films were based around it. But the funny thing about this is it doesn't really need to be. But, double but, Ben, as they say. Double butts. It does give the creepy monsters a visual identity.
It does. They are very, very clearly defined as things. I thought, when I saw the trailer for this, Michael, that these were going to be ugly, buggly, grey, ill-defined things. They're not at all. They're gross and horrible.
Oh, they're horrid things coming out you. There's a spectacular shot, Ben, about midway through when it goes from oppressive to just relentlessly awful. And that's the scene when they're attacked in the car.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell, man.
And his wife, Claire, whose accent I could not place. I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be Irish or English or Australian. I couldn't tell where she was from, but that's neither here nor there. She is in the car and she's trying to start the car, and he has the bonnet open, and then he puts it down and we finally see a couple of them behind him properly. Terrifying stuff altogether.
Catches you out of nowhere. So there's a few things that went into the visual identity of this film, but Corin Hardy has cited Ray Harryhausen films and stop motion as one of his biggest inspirations. And I do think we get a bit of that from the creature design that we get. They're kind of ugly, buggly, broken frame animated things on occasion, and there's a lot of kind of janky movement and stuff like that, just to really drive home that these things aren't really human anymore. Or are they, Michael?
Or are they? They also have more than a touch of Pumpkinhead about them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of Pumpkinhead going.
I don't mean a man with the pumpkin on his head. I mean the classic 80s horror monster Pumpkinhead.
Yes, the vengeance demon Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, they've got more than a touch of him about them, the way they're creeping about the place and their distended hands and arms and everything.
Very creepy stuff, Michael. Very creepy stuff. Despite the terror that I felt at certain points, I quite liked the solidness of this as a story. I liked the little sprinklings of Irish folklore. There's a scene at the very beginning, Michael, where they arrive to the house and Claire is determined to kind of put her stamp on the home, and she starts to take down all the iron bars on the window.
Uh-oh.
To which everybody went, Claire, you can't.
Classic Brits.
Don't get rid of the iron, Claire. The iron is important, because in our folklore, Michael, iron burns the elf fairies and keeps them away.
They can't go in past it, you see.
Yeah, you can't be mucking about with iron, say fairy parents. Don't be doing that. But it also follows another very important conceit of Irish folklore, one that has kind of been glossed over in our drive to monetize our folklore with, leprechauns and fairy folk and stuff like that. But for millennia here in Ireland, well, centuries here in Ireland, let's be a little bit more realistic, there's a very important rule with fairies. Don't fuck with fairies or fairies will fuck with you. And you don't want that.
They're the worst bunch of lads. They're the absolute worst bunch of lads.
They're the worst bunch of lads. There are several moments where Benjamin Stark decides that he's going to sort this out once and for all. Fuck this. I'm a man. I'm going to sort this out. And you're like, oh no, Adam. No, that's not the attitude to take to this at all. Oh dear.
No. Listen to Rats from the Flats. Listen to Roose Bolton. He's trying. Now, Ben, you have to say that Rats from the Flats is complicit in a lot of this, because he is Michael Michaelandbenjamin. That's his real name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Noted Irish character actor Michael Matt. Ben, I used to serve him quite often when I worked in Cineworld, and he was only a tiny bit famous. And he would come in and watch a film and have a coffee in the bar in Cineworld. But that's neither here nor there.
That's quite nice. That's quite a nice little Michael Macken fact.
I consider us personal friends. So
get him on the podcast.
I'll get him on the podcast, Ben. I'll say, remember when we used to have a coffee once a week? I used to serve you a coffee once a week in Cineworld in the early 2000s. Usher was popular. No? Doesn't ring a bell? Anyway. What are we saying? Yeah,
Michael has become so lost in nostalgia, ladies and gentlemen, that he's got a frog in his throat and a little bit of mist in his eye.
Got a bit of mist. But his character is the classic horror character of, I know what's going on, but I'm not going to tell you until it's too late.
He's
Just
a fucking
tell them. Just fucking tell them. Right from the start, tell them. And if they don't believe you, they don't believe you. But just fucking tell them.
Between him and noted Irish character actor Michael Smiley, the guard, who's like, this isn't London, mister. Things here go bump in the night. And you're just like, no. Tell them that there's a race of subhuman infected that are a problem. Don't stop it. What do you do? What do you mean?
Don't hint around it. Don't hint about it and say, I'll tell you later if you come to see me in my house. Just fucking tell them.
Michael, the most unrealistic thing about this film is when Michael Macken reaches inside his jacket and pulls out a Necronomicon of Irish folklore.
Yeah. Great stuff. That's my favourite scene, actually.
And just leaves it on the table for Claire and says, read that ancient tome that's probably bound in human flesh there. Get that into you.
Yeah. Have a quick look at this. It's me, Rats from the Flats, or Roose Bolton from Game of Thrones.
Now, there's an amazing bit of foreshadowing that goes into that, Michael, because we see on the end page of that there is a mother and child and some kind of demonic being wrapping his arms around them. And of course, that kicks off the body transformation or the body horror element of this film, which is fucking awful.
Horrible stuff, Benjamin. Adar from Lord of the Rings gets stabbed in the eye.
Oh.
And he starts becoming a fungus man. And getting stabbed in the eye and becoming a fungus man is one of my now greatest fears.
Yeah, I'll never look through a peephole ever again if I'm in a rural area.
Yeah, well, good. That's good. That's good to hear, Ben. It's nice to see some character growth from you, to be honest.
Yeah, it's good,
but
isn't it?
yeah. But he has a breakdown in front of the mirror when he realises how infected he is. And it's harrowing, that scene where he's like, oh no, it's in my eye. But he's better at acting than me, obviously.
Yeah, he does that so well. His distraught father bit from start to finish, awful. Just
horrible stuff.
Not awful in terms of its skill at being portrayed, actually quite good. Awfully heartbreaking.
Yeah. Horrible stuff altogether.
One of my favourite things about this, Michael, is it quickly becomes a husband versus wife thing, because he can now see the fairy world a little bit better, and he realises when Claire goes to retrieve the baby the first time it's nicked, because he passes out. He's gone through a lot. He's after been bunged into a car. He's lost his dog, man's best friend.
Yeah.
He's been living
Negative points for that, by the way.
Negative points for that. That really pissed me off, but we'll get into that in a second. And then poor old Claire has to do one of my favourite bits is, look, it's fine, the baby's safe, and they open the thing and there's a fucking changeling over the baby being like, how are you? It's like, oh shit, the baby's not safe.
He's not safe. There was a changeling there the whole time, I swear to God.
The whole time. So then poor old Claire goes and she dunks herself in the lake to retrieve her baby. But Michael, that kicks off a whole thing of, is that Finn?
Which baby is real baby?
And one of my favourite things about this film is that Claire never looks at the baby from that point on. She kind of holds the baby as a bundle from that point on, and it's subtly hinted to us, and spoilers for the film here, ladies and gentlemen, that she hasn't got Finn. There's also a terrifying scene where Benji Stark is kind of in and out of a fairy haze, and he realises that it's a changeling, and he puts a little bit of iron on it as a baby, and he says, reveal yourself. And it does, but she can't see, so she flees from her husband then.
Yeah. Or does it, Ben? Or is he going mad?
There's some really good elements at play here, Michael. One of my favourites, I think, cinematographically speaking.
That's a word, yep.
Cinematographically speaking. Yes. This is very strong. I'm thinking in particular as we reach kind of the denouement of the entire film, Michael. He lights a scythe on fire and he begins to stalk through the forest. And Michael, what a flaming bit of cinematography that is.
Well, that's the poster bin.
Yes, it's very good. It's very.
You know what
good.
they said? They said, "Oh, oi, lads, put that on bloody poster."
That is bloody good stuff. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, that's.
Watch out for that bloomin' Irish.
Yeah, watch out for that bloomin' Irish. Whoa, my collie wobbles, eh?
There's only 2 Irish people in this.
There's only 2 Irish people in this for an Irish film. Anyway,
there's only 5 people in it, and one of them's a baby, so we'll forgive them that.
From that point on, Michael, it kind of goes balls to the wall on just terrifying us, because poor El Adam finds his dog. And Michael, that broke my heart, because I hate any time a dog gets hurt in a film. I'm just like, this is bullshit.
Utterly against it.
Get fucked. And it is a very harrowing thing. And then he just starts taking on fairy people, which are supposed to be changelings and banshees and things like that, but they're not really. Turns out they're just infected people.
Horrible fungus monsters.
Yeah, and Galway man who carries around Necronomicons in his coat, it turns out his daughter was taken by one of them, and we meet Cora. And we kind of met Cora earlier in the film with the car scene, but Cora has the baby, and she has taken the baby because she likes it. She likes having a little baby. That's it. That's the only reason. There's not a a supernatural reason. He's not a chosen one or anything. It's just, no, the demented little girl took the baby because she wanted a baby to play with.
She said, "Give me that."
Yeah, give me that. And Michael, we then come to the final crux of it, where Adam has to convince his wife, despite the fact that he's turning into a fungus man himself, no, the real baby is in my hands. Please take this one and get rid of that one.
And we're like, oh no. Which baby's real baby?
Which baby is real baby?
Ask it a question that only the baby would be able to answer.
And of course, yes. I don't know what that would be, Michael. Anyway. The tension of this film just keeps on fucking going, Michael.
Horrible stuff.
So tense. Horrible.
So tense and horrible.
Incredible body horror stuff. A classic jump scare at the end of the film. Spoilers again, ladies and gentlemen.
It is. It's so unnecessary and so obvious. What a weird jump scare to end it. It's hilarious. That was designed purely to make cinemas go, ah!
Yeah. I bet it worked a bunch of times. But they knock down the forest because they never get Adam's report. So it's quite funny. The forest, in protecting itself, because that's kind of what the forest is doing. The cordyceps kind of acts as a nature's protector. It basically swallows up people that come into the forest to try and damage it. But because they didn't get the report from Adam, the logging company that wants to tear it down goes, all right, just fucking destroy that, so get rid of that. But Michael, then we find out all the ship's logs have cordyceps on them.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to be a big problem because it can't survive in sunlight, so I wouldn't be too worried.
Well, for plot hole purposes, Michael, it's going to take over the world.
Oh, very good. Okay, and then that's how we get the film The Last of Us. Ben.
Yeah.
Speaking of body horror.
Go on.
For this week's Halloween Spook Festival.
Spooktober, but yes.
Halloween Spooktober. We're looking at the original body horror, Benjamin.
Yeah.
What happened when Frankenstein entered the bodybuilding competition?
Yeah, it was an absolute classic 1980s film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael, in one of his early films. And apparently, to paint him green every day took about 17 hours because he had so much body mass to cover in green paint. And then he kept going to the gym before they'd shoot and he'd sweat it all off. And they'd go, Arnie. And he'd go, I'm sorry, I need to pump. And
is Frankenstein green? He's not usually green.
Depends on whichever film you watch. It depends on what you look at. But this 1980s one, Michael, I'm just kidding, ladies and gentlemen. There's no film called Frankenstein Enters a Bodybuilding Competition. I wish there was. I'd watch it. But come here to me. We're taking a look at Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus.
By the noted mother of all science fiction, Mary Shelly Freankenstein.
Mary Shelly Freankenstein. That's definitely her name. Don't look it up. So this came about quite madly, Michael. Frankenstein is a bizarre creation, and it's gone on to leave a legacy that is quite frankly stunning.
Very good.
It is widely regarded as the first science fiction work, and it's by English author Mary Shelley, who was, Michael, I don't know if you know this, a woman. Ooh.
Oh, get out of here. How did she learn how to write?
How did she learn how to write? Get fucked. She was a rich woman. Her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft. I don't know if you know anything about Mary Wollstonecraft.
Is she the woman from the Great British Bake Off?
She's not, no. Mary Wollstonecraft was actually one of the first ever feminist authors, Michael. She wrote a very important text about something called the spheres, and she talked about how women were allowed to be in one sphere and men were allowed to be in another, and how they had to cross over. She was one of the early feminist authors, and that rubbed off on Mary Shelley. She was quite feminist in her time, as much as the 1800s would allow. So The Modern Prometheus, or Frankenstein, was written in 1818, Michael. And it's the classic Dr. Frankenstein is obsessed with preserving life and continuing life, and he creates a monster. And that monster is Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein himself. We'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, the reason this was
now,
written...
My argument, Ben, is... My argument is he shouldn't have done that.
He shouldn't have. Yeah, that's my
philosophical bent on this, is that he shouldn't have done that. Because
what What a hot take.
Hubris and whatnot. Yeah,
What a hot take, Michael. What a hot take. So she simultaneously created one of the earliest science fiction stories, but also one of the earliest body horror examples that we could possibly come across. Reading actual Frankenstein is a genuinely queasy and unpleasant experience at points. There are different moments within this story. One of them being the dream that Frankenstein has about his dead wife being pregnant, and her body kind of opens up and lets loose monsters. It's awful. There's a lot of strong body horror imagery that would go on to influence other people. But when we sit down and we think about this, quite often people are like, oh, she's writing a feminist text about man's hubris, or she's writing a text that really emphasizes how men can cause more harm than good. And then the dream sequence is her take on the terror of motherhood and the lack of support from it's not at all. She created a scary story that was part of a competition with 4 other writers. Frankenstein is written to be scary intentionally, and it's based on a short story she created with 4 notable 17th century literary figures. Would you like to know who they were?
Okay, for the sake of the conceit of the podcast, yes, Benjamin, who was it?
So she used to hang out with the Romantics, Michael. The Romantics being Percy B. Shelley, who would be her future husband, and an absolute box. She also hung out with John Polidori.
Oh yeah, sounds Italian.
John Polidori wrote The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and is widely regarded as creating the European vampire concept long before Bram Stoker. So that's an interesting one. And Lord Byron, none other than famous romantic poet Lord Byron. And they all made a challenge while they were lounging about a kind of a river house. I don't know what that is, but that's
a chalet.
A chalet, if you were, because they were doing that all the time because they were rich and foppish. But they had a little competition to write the scariest possible story, and this is what came out of it. And it's fucking terrifying.
It's also weirdly written. It's a weird rambling nonsense of it. It's very much a first draft of a book.
Oh, it is, yeah, absolutely. She was not an established author at the time.
No, but also it's very clearly I'm going to sit in this house and write this book, and let's just see what comes of it. Now, they didn't really have the process we have now where you'd never get away. There's not big studio interference in this because it's a rambling, nonsensical madness of a thing where the monster, large parts of it, the monster is completely absent.
Yeah, we don't see that much of him.
Most retellings of it focus on the monster.
Yeah.
Or if not focus on the monster, focus on the hunt between Frankenstein and the monster. But that's really only the last bit of the book.
Yeah, but it's exactly. It's the last tiny bit when they're in the Arctic together. And it's such an interesting tale, Michael. But it's clearly struck a nerve because it's stuck around for a long, long time after its publishing. I made a glib little joke at the beginning of this podcast, Michael, that Frankenstein isn't the monster. Or is he?
Oh, very good. Classic. Yeah. No, he definitely is. He's horrible.
Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Victor Frankenstein of this book, absolute prick.
The worst.
He's the worst. He does a terrible thing, and then not only does he not keep his promise to the terrible thing, but he fucking runs away from it and causes even more havoc in the process. This is a lot of Mary Shelley. There's a few autobiographical elements in there, Michael. Mary Shelley had a very difficult life because her mother died in childbirth with her, so she never actually knew her mother, and her father was a very absent father after that. He was not the best, as it were, and it's unfortunate for him. Her father was William Godwin, and I don't know if you know who William Godwin was.
Well, let's imagine I don't.
Okay. He was an English journalist, political philosopher and novelist, and he was one of the major exponents of utilitarianism, and he also developed the first ever proper modern concept of anarchism.
Oh, good man.
William Godwin
he had no time to be listening to foppish teenage daughters.
He didn't. He was quite an absent father after her mother died, and so a little bit of the book and Dr. Frankenstein's own abdication of responsibility is a representation of what she had felt at the hands of her father. So I suppose if you were to lean into that, Frankenstein's monster is probably Mary Shelley, and then the parental themes around it are her own parents. But we can't really do that, Michael, because it wouldn't be fair. Anyway, come here to me.
What?
This has stuck around in perpetuity. And the representation of Frankenstein's monster has changed massively over the years. And Michael, I'd like to ask you, why do you think that is?
Film.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Because everyone was like, "Oh, we'll make a film about it," and it's like, "Oh, will it be a dramatic and considered retelling of the nature of man's folly?" It'll be a big scary monster. He's a big scary monster man.
He's a big scary monster man. Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Will he be very smart and erudite, and will he cry over the body of his deceased man that he considered his father and enemy? Oh no, he's got bolts coming out of his head or neck.
So I think probably one of the most interesting things, Michael, is if you ever wanted to understand the difference between British entertainment and American entertainment,
yes,
that might be it. That might be it. Because in the British version, or in the original British version of this, a monster can be two things. It can be a beastly aberration capable of great violence and terror, but it can also be a living, breathing, feeling thing capable of its own motivations and pain. And in the original, Michael, the depiction of Frankenstein's creature is horrific. It's a bizarrely built, hulking, pale form of a man with strings of black hair that hangs down from his face, and then a very beautiful face. It's highlighted several times in the text that while the body of Frankenstein's monster is a horrific patchwork that doesn't really all fit together properly, he's a very beautiful face that's stitched together.
But the original book, Ben, it's not really. He's not. The whole idea of him being made of different bits of corpses seems to be a movie invention.
Yeah, so he took a body, but there are stitches and marks all over his body because of the surgery that Dr. Frankenstein has done to bring him to life.
That wasn't my reading of it, Ben. My reading of it was in the original, in the book.
Hang on.
In Mary Shelly Frankenstein's book, it doesn't really get into it. Like she appears to have made him basically whole cloth.
She does describe his body, though, doesn't she? Hang on.
Yeah, but he's not the depiction that we've kind of the drift. I could be wrong about this because it's been a couple of years since I read it.
No,
but
hang on.
There's a drift in the depiction of him where cinema went for. No, she dug up loads of different corpses. He dug up loads of different corpses, chopped them up,
running around.
and stitched them all back together. But I got the impression that the original monster, she basically makes him from not bits and pieces of people, but bits and pieces of meat and organs, and he's not a sewn together kind of human homunculus thing. He's a whole cloth creation of. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm misreading it a little bit.
He does take pieces from other corpses though and stitches it together.
Yes, yeah, but not like an arm and a leg. Like,
oh no, it's internal organs. Yeah, sorry.
But not even just internal organs. Doesn't he make it like basically from scratch? He takes the muscles fibre, but not. He's not like John's head on Alan's body.
No,
with Siobhan's leg.
Yeah, I think it's a completely artificial man, as it were.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
he's a completely artificial man. He's not made up of recognizable bits of other people. He's horrible.
Yeah, no. Okay, that was an interesting sidebar there. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
But that's why he's so big, because he couldn't make him any smaller. Because him being enormous doesn't make sense if he's made of bits of various people, because the arms and legs would still be the same size.
Yeah, it's true.
Unless he got him from lots of different tall people.
He has to make him big to fit everything in or something, isn't it? He describes it at one point where he's like, there's so much machinery I have to put in here that he has to be a tremendous being.
Yeah. He's a big, huge unit.
Yeah, and then he's got a very pretty face, which is a weird detail that I always found, because that's how he gets. He talks. Frankenstein's monster talks to children a few times, and the children have no problem with him when they can't see the size and scope of him, and they're just like, "Oh, look at this pleasant man having a conversation with me. Why are you putting your hands around my neck, pleasant man?" And then it's lights out for that little fella. But anyway, yeah, I think one of the things that it's endured with is the cinematic representations of Frankenstein, but he's so unnerving as a literary creation, and then he gets a bit silly as a cinematic creation. It's like, well, we'll give him a big square head, and we'll put some bolts through his neck, and that'll be scary. And I don't like all these words he's using in the book, so we'll just make him go.
When did he become green?
So the first
he's
film. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
The first ever Frankenstein film was produced by none other than Thomas Edison, Michael.
Oh, light bulb man.
The light bulb man in 1910. And then following that, Michael, there were two German films that kind of stole from it. The Golem in 1914 and Homunculus in 1916. But what catapulted Frankenstein to public knowledge was the 1931 film Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. So that's the kind of famous one. And that was followed up in 1935, Michael, with Bride of Frankenstein. And Bride of Frankenstein was where Frankenstein wanted a mate. That is, of course, a core part of the original story. He beseeches...
He's kind of an incel.
Yeah, he is a bit. He's like, how am I supposed to get a lady? Make me a lady. Yeah. Frankenstein the incel, very good. Very good. But yeah, so that was a thing that we had. But as far as when he became green, that's a little bit harder to track down. And I'm looking it up now.
No, I've tracked it down for you there, Ben. It's
very good.
It's to do with camera techniques, basically.
Oh, yeah, go on, tell me more.
Yeah, they used a film technique called, hold on a second, I've forgotten what it was called. Orthochromatic film, Ben.
Oh, sure. Orthochromatic film, of course.
And orthochromatic film, Ben, is particularly sensitive to green and blue light.
Oh, that would have
So
done
they painted them green so that he would show up particularly pale. So they were going for the kind of yellowish skin tone as he's described in the book, a very pale yellowish sickly skin tone. So they painted him green because that's how it turned out on camera, as pale looking.
I love it.
Very good. Benjamin, the best depiction of Frankenstein's monster on screen is definitely 2012's I, Frankenstein with Aaron Eckhart. You remember in the book, Ben, when at the end Dr. Frankenstein dies after exhaustion and chasing him across the Arctic.
Yes.
And then the monster takes the body and says, off I go now to burn myself in a pyre and we'll both be forgotten as we should be. That's not what actually happened. What actually happened was he went back to civilization and joined a war between gargoyles and demons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and started an underworld-like adventure where he was torn between the forces of evil demons and good gargoyles.
It's a classic folklore conceit, Michael, isn't it? Gargoyles versus demon. Yeah. That's a tale as old as time. We see that everywhere.
Tale as old as time. All this stuff about the hubris of man in creating this monster, and the father abandoning his child, and that's all just a footnote to get going on. There's this battle between demons and gargoyles.
That's Mary Shelley's sequel, which is The Benevolent Gargoyles, or A Modern Demon Hunter in Paris. Bizarre. Michael, we've had bizarre representations over the years. There's a 1969 film from Japan. Go on. Yeah. And it's called Frankenstein Conquers the World. And it's like an action version of Frankenstein. It's hilarious.
Very good.
So I discovered this while I was having a look at different versions of Frankenstein, and it's bizarre. I'll show you some pictures after this, but it's exactly what you would expect from a weird 1960s thing. The poster is magic. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it's a kaiju film, Michael. It's Frankenstein taking on the kaijus.
Very good. Oh, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah, in a kind of anglicization of the title, it's Frankenstein versus Baragon. And during World War II in Nazi Germany, Nazi officers confiscate the living heart of the Frankenstein monster and pass it on to the Imperial Japanese Navy.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And they take it to a research facility, Michael, and then 15 years later, a feral boy runs rampant in the streets of Hiroshima, catching and devouring small animals. And it turns out that he has somehow been given the heart of Frankenstein, and he becomes the hero of Hiroshima post-nuclear war.
Fantastic. Benjamin, all joking aside, you know what had a great depiction of Frankenstein?
Go on.
Or Frankenstein's monster, or the creature, was the 2010s TV show Penny Dreadful.
Penny Dreadful had a very good representation of a book accurate, solid take on the Frankenstein-Dr. Frankenstein relationship.
It did, didn't it? It was quite interesting. It was Rory Kinnear who played the creature. It isn't who you would think of when you're thinking of doing a big Frankenstein.
Not at all.
But he did a fabulous erudite creature who just wanted to be loved and to be a human, but was capable of acts of gross and terrifying violence to get it, and had an obsessive hatred with his creator, Dr. Victor Frankenstein. It's a surprisingly it's a TV show, and there's vampires and werewolves and Draculas and all sorts of other mad shit going on. But it's a
mummies.
Surprisingly accurate retelling of Frankenstein within that framework.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent representation. I feel that he took... I don't know, if Michael, have you ever seen the seminal Hugh Jackman film Van Helsing from 2004?
Benjamin, are you asking me if I've seen the Hugh Jackman film Van Helsing from 2000? Are you genuinely asking me that?
But no, I'm not. You probably have seen it, Michael. We've seen lots of things in this podcast. There's a version of Frankenstein in that who's also very erudite and a little bit closer to what we might expect, but he's a weird fusion of both the Hollywood American version of Frankenstein and the source material of Frankenstein. It's very interesting. He was played by a guy called Cher Hulling.
He looks like, and then he's like, oh, bugger, I'm bloody buggering Frankenstein, lads.
Oh, my. It's like a character that one of our friends would play in a tabletop role-playing RPG. Stephen Cadwell, I have your number. But ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to get in touch with us and tell us what your favourite version of Frankenstein's monster is, mine is Young Frankenstein. I love that. That's great good stuff.
Mine's Aaron Eckert.
You can get in touch with us in a few different ways. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.com.
We didn't watch the Robert De Niro one. I know someone's going to at us. We didn't have time. We had to watch the Hallows and the House of Usher, and there was too much going on. I had to refamiliarise myself with the book. I didn't have time to watch Robert De Niro being the monster. I'm so sorry.
We had so much going on, Michael.
So
much. Come here to us. Come here to us. You can also
what?
find us on Instagram at Sure Look, Sure Listen Podcast. You can find us on TikTok at Sure Look, Sure Listen. But the best way, ladies and gentlemen, to get in touch with either myself or Michael is to hop up on the Discord.
Hop up on it. Tell us, what is your favourite Frankenstein?
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us next week where we'll be taking a look at all the spooky, scary creatures that would make excellent monsters from Celtic folklore. And then our things that go bump in the night film is The Boys from County Hell, which features the bizarre proto-vampire from Irish mythology, the Overtook.
And Ben, are there any Game of Thrones alumni in it?
I think there are, but you know that better than I do, because I'm not good at stuff like that.
Very good. Excellent. See you next week, you big spookies.